From bizarre accidents to one-in-a-million events, this is the second edition of the strangest ways people have died. Tier 1. Tragic. Death by carrot juice. Basil Brown. In 1974, Basil Brown from Croydon, England, was a 48-year-old health fanatic. He was convinced that he had found the secret to eternal wellness. He believed that flooding the body with nutrients, especially from natural sources, could prevent almost any illness. And his favorite method to do so was carrot juice. Basil didn't just drink it normally. For 10 days straight, he drank up to 4 liters a day, which is nearly a gallon of carrot juice. Alongside that, he consumed 70 million units of vitamin A supplements, which were nearly 70 times the recommended daily intake. He thought he was fixing his immune system, but instead, he was slowly destroying his liver. Not long after, his skin began to change color, turning a deep orange. It was a classic sign of carotenemia, where the color present in carrots begins to build up in the skin. Soon, his liver was overwhelmed by the toxic levels of vitamin A and started to fail. A doctor described the damage as similar to that of a long-term alcoholic. After 10 days of this extreme diet, Basil collapsed. Medics found him suffering from complete liver failure. Despite attempts to save him, it was too late. His obsession with health had led to death by vitamins. His death shocked the medical world and sparked renewed warnings about the dangers of fat-soluble vitamins, like A, which the body stores and doesn't easily flush out. Death by bottle cap. Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams was a legendary writer who composed various plays, including A Streetcar Named Desire and The Glass Menagerie. In 1983, at the age of 71, he was staying alone in a suite at the Elysee Hotel in New York City. He began to take his nightly medication of sedatives that he'd been taking for years regularly. But this time, something went wrong. As he opened a new bottle of pills, the tiny plastic cap liner, the kind that seals the bottle under the lid, accidentally fell into his hand. And without noticing, he swallowed it along with his pills. The plastic cap got stuck in his throat almost instantly, blocking his airway. He collapsed to the floor of his hotel room. By the time help arrived, he was already gone. The medical examiner later confirmed the cause of death as asphyxiation due to a plastic bottle cap stuck in his windpipe. Death by rain. William Henry Harrison. In March of 1841, William Henry Harrison stood outside the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., about to deliver his inaugural address. He was 68 years old and the oldest person to become president at the time. He was known for his kindness and good humor, but also wanted the nation to see him as strong and defiant. So he refused a coat, a hat, and even gloves. The day was cold and it was pouring heavily, but Harrison stood tall in just a suit, determined to show he could handle it. His inaugural address stretched on for nearly 2 hours, which was the longest in American history. His clothes were soaked by the time he finished, and his audience was freezing. But Harrison had made his point, and he may have also signed his death sentence. Within weeks, he developed a severe respiratory illness. Doctors diagnosed him with pneumonia, though later researchers suggested it may have been enteric fever from contaminated drinking water near the White House. Either way, 19th century medicine didn't help. He was treated with opium, castor oil, and even leeches, but nothing worked. On April 4th, just 31 days after taking office, William Henry Harrison died. He became the first U.S. president to die in office and still holds the record for the shortest term served. His death shocked the young republic. It raised questions about presidential succession and exposed the fragility of early medicine. But perhaps the greatest irony was that the man who wanted to prove he was too tough for a coat was proven wrong by the rain. Tier 2. Unfathomable accidents. Death by scarf. Isidora Duncan. In September of 1927, Isidora Duncan, the American-born dance icon, known for her free spirit, bare feet, and flowing gowns, was in Nice, France, enjoying a ride in a brand new convertible. She was 50 years old, still performing for audiences with her extremely unique and expressive style. That evening, she stepped into the passenger seat of an Amilcar, a sleek French sports car, wearing a long flowing silk scarf. It had been a gift from a friend. As the car picked up speed along the Promenade des Anglais, she leaned back to enjoy the sea breeze, her scarf trailing elegantly in the wind. What no one noticed was that the scarf had fallen over the side and into the open-spoked rear wheel. As the car moved faster, the fabric wrapped itself around the spinning axle. Then, in an instant, it jerked violently. The scarf pulled Isidora out of the car with brutal force. Her body hit the cobblestones, and her neck snapped on impact. Bystanders screamed as the car screeched to a stop, but it was already over. Her death was instant. Paramedics arrived minutes later, but there was nothing they could do. The official cause of death was strangulation and a broken neck, caused by a fashion accessory caught in motion. Everyone was stunned. It felt like something from one of her performances. Years later, medical literature coined the term Isidora Duncan syndrome and used it to describe freak accidents where scarves, ties, or loose clothing become entangled in moving parts or machinery. It's rare, but it still happens. Death by iron club. Chandler Hugh Jackson in Cunningham, Kentucky. 12-year-old Chandler Hugh Jackson was spending a sunny day on the golf course. He was holding a 9-iron as he jogged across the grass to retrieve a ball that had rolled out of bounds. Then, in a single misstep, everything changed. Chandler tripped, but as he hit the ground, the golf club in his hand snapped. The metal shaft broke jaggedly, and one sharp end drove straight into his chest. The pressure was just enough, and the broken club pierced his aorta. Friends and nearby adults rushed to help, and paramedics arrived quickly, but the damage was too severe and the bleeding was too fast. Chandler died before doctors could save him. His death shocked the community and made national headlines, not just because of how young he was, but because of how it happened. A sport known for quiet greens and calm afternoons had turned deadly, not through speed or violence, but through a single broken club in the wrong place at the wrong time. Death by fire hydrant. Humberto Hernandez. In 2007, 24-year-old Humberto Hernandez was walking down a sidewalk in Oakland, California, hand in hand with his wife. It was an ordinary, normal afternoon with clear skies, until everything changed in a split second. Suddenly, a passing vehicle lost control. It veered off the road and slammed into a fire hydrant. The force of the impact knocked the hydrant clean off its base. Underneath the hydrant was a high-pressure water main, unleashing hundreds of gallons per second. The sheer force launched the 200-pound iron hydrant straight into the air. Before anyone could react, the hydrant came crashing down, striking Humberto in the back of the head. The impact was instant, and he collapsed. Paramedics arrived quickly, but there was nothing they could do. The blow was fatal. Bystanders stood frozen as a peaceful walk turned into tragedy. Investigators later explained that the pressure in underground water mains can reach over 100 pounds per square inch, more than enough to turn a solid metal object into a deadly projectile. Firefighters said they had never seen anything like it. Tier 3. Systemic failures. Death by window frame. Gary Hoy. In July of 1993, Gary Hoy, a 38-year-old corporate lawyer in Toronto, wanted to impress a group of visiting interns at his office. He brought them to a boardroom on the 24th floor of the Toronto Dominion Centre, one of the city's tallest office towers. Gary then claimed the office windows were unbreakable, and in order to prove it, he would run with full force into the glass. That evening, in front of the interns, he did just that. He bounced off the window once, just like always, and the room erupted with laughter and applause. But then he did it again. This time, the glass held, but the frame didn't. The entire window popped out of its casing, and Gary Hoy, mid-demonstration, was launched through the opening and fell 24 stories. The impact killed him instantly. An investigation found that the glass itself hadn't broken. It had stayed intact, but the aluminum frame anchoring it to the building had failed under the repeated force. Engineers later stated, no window is designed to withstand a grown man hurling himself against it, especially not more than once. Death by MRI. Michael Colombini. In 2001, 6-year-old Michael Colombini was undergoing a routine follow-up MRI at Westchester Medical Center in New York. Just weeks earlier, he'd had successful brain surgery, and the scan was meant to check his recovery. As Michael lay inside the MRI tube, the machine slowly powered up. But unknowingly, a staff member accidentally brought a metal oxygen tank into the MRI room. What they forgot or fatally underestimated was that MRI machines generate magnetic fields hundreds of times stronger than a household magnet, and any nearby metal doesn't just get pulled, it flies. The oxygen tank was sucked into the machine with violent force, and it struck Michael in the head before anyone could react. The impact fractured his skull. While medical staff rushed to save him, the injury was catastrophic, and Michael died shortly after. Later investigation revealed a deadly lapse in safety protocol, as MRI rooms are supposed to be strictly metal-free zones. A single object can turn a life-saving machine into a weapon. Michael's death became a landmark case in hospital safety. It led to new policies, training, and nationwide reviews of MRI procedures. Death by elevator. Hitoshi Nikaido. In August of 2003, Dr. Hitoshi Nikaido, a 35-year-old surgical resident, was finishing a long shift at St. Joseph Hospital in Houston, Texas. He He stepped into the hospital elevator to leave, something he had done hundreds of times before. Just as he walked through the doors, the elevator malfunctioned and the doors violently closed on his neck. Just as the elevator began to move, the movement was extremely fast, and the force of the elevator's rise caused catastrophic injuries, which included partial decapitation, along with massive damage to his skull and spine. His body remained on the floor, his head did not. When nearby staff heard the commotion, they rushed to intervene, but it was already too late. Dr. Nikaido died almost instantly. The incident left the hospital in shock. Elevators are built with layered safety systems that include motion sensors, emergency brakes, and override locks. But in this case, a rare mechanical failure overrode them all. Investigators later discovered that the elevator's control system had recently undergone maintenance, and a wiring error had disabled the door sensors, meaning the elevator didn't know someone was in the way. A lawsuit soon followed. Tier 4. Profound mystery. Death by locked bag, Gareth Williams. In August of 2010, 31-year-old Gareth Williams was a Welsh mathematics prodigy, and also a GCHQ and MI6 agent. One day, he just stopped showing up for work. A full week passed before anyone raised an alarm, and soon police were dispatched to his flat. When police arrived at his flat in Pimlico to conduct a welfare check, they found everything was completely normal. Nothing seemed out of place, but that was until they entered the bathroom. Inside the bathtub was a red North Face sports bag, which was zipped shut and padlocked from the outside. Upon opening the bag, they found the body of Gareth lying lifeless. He was curled up, and the key to the padlock was under his body. There were no signs of a forced entry into his house, and no signs of a struggle. His phone, SIM cards, and electronics were all nearby and untouched, and there were no fingerprints on the crime scene. Police investigations showed that the body was exposed to extreme heat, making forensics impossible. Forensics couldn't confirm whether drugs or poison were involved. Experts later recreated the scene and found that being sealed in a bag like that would cause oxygen to drop and heat to rise rapidly. One test subject became insane within minutes. At a 2012 proceeding, the coroner ruled Gareth's death unnatural and likely criminal. She believed someone else had locked the bag and moved it to the tub. The delay in finding him had destroyed crucial evidence. While stories circulated about bondage interests and women's clothing, the coroner made it clear that there was no link between those reports and his death. In 2013, the Metropolitan Police offered a different theory. Gareth had likely locked himself in the bag and died accidentally, as there were no clear signs of anyone else being present there. The public was left with two opposing conclusions: a likely murder or a tragic accident. Fresh forensic tests were ordered years later. In 2024, the results came back. No new evidence, no new DNA, no change. If you liked this video, subscribe for similar ones or leave a comment to suggest another.